This year, every member of the church has been challenged to prepare as many names for the temple as you perform in the temple, and to teach others to do the same. What I am going to show you today and in the next 2 weeks will help you to do just that. In the last 12 months, only 5 youth in the entire stake have submitted a total of 19 names for the temple. I think more than that are probably involved in research, but that names may have been submitted by parents rather than the youth. As youth in the 6th ward, my challenge is for each of you to find names for temple work every month. If you do not yet have an LDS account, you need to get one. You cannot submit names to the temple without it. Please do not assume that in 3 weeks you are going to become an expert on genealogy and family history research, but I can put you on the right path to achieving the temple challenge, and these steps should work on any connected device, even most smartphones. To start with, let's go to familysearch.org and make sure that you can sign in using your LDS account. I'm just going to sign in now. But the reason this is so important is that if you cannot sign in, or if you do not have an account, you are not going to be able to submit names for temple work. All right, now that you are logged in, go to familysearch.org/partner access. Partner access, of course, is all one word. This is the page where you can sign up for a free personal account with 4 of the commercial family history websites. I would encourage you to join all 4 of them, although American Ancestors is really only relevant if you have ancestors from the New England area. For now, I want you to click on the first link, which is to join Ancestry.com. If you followed step 1, you are already signed in to Family Search, and should then see a message that you qualify for a free Ancestry account. Immediately under that message is a link to create your account. If you are under 18, though, you will need parental permission. The nice thing about Ancestry is that you can link names on there with Family Search, but I would encourage you to sign up for the other accounts as well. Bear in mind that you will be using these accounts for researching names. Now, let's go to Pazilla.org. That's a fairly unusual name, and to help you remember the name, think of family history as a monster puzzle, hence a mixture of Godzilla and a puzzle, and therefore the word Pazilla. And it's not a .com, it's a .org. As you can see, you will be asked to sign in. And I'm just clicking there, and you'll notice that I'm given the same sign-in page that I just barely used to log into Family Search. This is because Pazilla will be using its own computers to log you in. Pazilla will then give you a visual representation of 6 generations of your ancestry, often referred to as a family tree, and sometimes also referred to as an ascendancy chart. It should be obvious that the shape is more or less in the shape of a tree, hence the name. Now, it should be obvious that males are represented by blue dots, while females have pink dots. Note that in my case, there are some obvious places where data is missing. For example, I really do not have enough information to know for sure the names of my maternal grandfather's parents, nor for that matter do I know my maternal grandmother's father's name. If you hover over a dot, it will display information, and if you click on a dot, it will actually fix the information on the screen until you hit the X. If you notice, you'll see that you can click descendants, and that's what we're going to do here because we want a descendancy chart. Now you'll notice with this that it's going to look completely different. I'm starting off with this guy here, George Underwood, and while this is not complete, you can still see some areas where work is needed. You can see that the chart is more or less circular with several concentric circles with George Underwood in the middle. The first circle after him is going to be his children. The next circle is his grandchildren, then his great-grandchildren, and finally his great-great-grandchildren. And especially around the outside, you can see there are areas where I can still do a fair amount of research. You'll notice that there are some yellow dots. The yellow dots mean that the person died before they were 16 years of age and therefore extremely unlikely to have had children. And especially on the outer ring, there are some that have gray dots. Those are people who were born within the last 110 years, for which you would need permission to be able to submit a name. Now what I'm going to do is look at the chart for James Midwinter. I have to wait for the chart to be created. But you can see on this chart that there are a lot more, many, many more gaps than there were for George Underwood. There are several places where more work can be done or more research can be done. I mean, is it really likely that David only had one child and that William George only had one child? No, it doesn't seem terribly likely, but certainly is possible. What I'm going to do right now is to do some research for James Midwinter. Now, to start with, I'm going to go to Ancestry and sign in. And I realize you may not all have got an Ancestry account at this point. In this particular case, I already have James Herbert Midwinter in my file, so I'll bring him up now. But if I hadn't already had him, I could have maybe added him as if he were my brother and then deleted the relationship so that he would be in my ancestry tree to be able to do some research. Now one could simply click on search on Ancestry, but the Ancestry hints can be extremely useful. There are two things I want to mention. First of all, Ancestry member trees. You'll notice that there are hints from 10 other trees. So let's just click there. And I can already see on this first tree that there are at least 3 children of the marriage: William Herbert, Phyllis Agnes, and Christine Emily. There are some others. Look, this second one mentions an Albert E. So these are going to be good hints for my additional research. For now, I'm going to click Cancel. And what I really want to do is to get some census entries. And look, here's the last available census for England and Wales. And I already know that his wife is Harriet. I know he was born in Charlton Kings. I also know that JAS is an abbreviation for James. So this is almost certainly him, even though he's living in Wales. So let's click on Review. And then I'm going to click on the census itself to view the actual census. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it clearly, more clearly. We can see that James H. Midwinter is the head of household, that he was married 15 years ago, that they had 5 children, 4 of them are still living, and 1 had died. Now, of the 4 children still living, it looks like every single one of them is there. Look, son, daughter, daughter, and son. So we have William H., Phyllis A., Christine E., and Albert E., as we saw on those other trees. And just as an aside, imagine how different life was back in those days. We've got William, aged just 14. He's already left school and has a full-time job as a telegraph messenger with the GPO, which is the equivalent of the US Postal Service. And so, with very little effort, I have found 4 new names to submit for temple work. Next week, we will look at adding names to Family Search.